can move on, Nick, on the grouping. So basically, what you see here, closed inside folders, are related sounds. So on this yellow folder are all drum sounds. On this what no food needed, I do them big. On the synth sounds are mostly synthesizer sounds. Atmo and sample, I group them together because most of the Atmo you or the sample you use in this track are basically atmospherics. And so each of these goes into their groups. So kick and bass. Quickly, constant you will see in each of the groups is sound toys. Sound toys mostly Decapitator as a first guy on the chain. Decapitator is one of the best sounding and best emulation recreation of 5 different old analog machines. As you can see here, but basically it's a saturator, okay? As you can see here is you have A, R, A, and T and P. These are different style, 5 different style. So A stay as an emulation for Ampex, which is old tape is a preamp of a tape recorder. Okay, so this is modeled on the preamp, which is a very typical sound. The E is from the METG channel mic preamp. The N is from the famous Neve 1057 germanium preamp, so it's actually made on a very particular metal. So this sound is very physical, so it's something that these guys emulate very well. And the last 2 TMP are modeled with the most famous of all, Culture Vulture. The T is from a Triad preamp, and the P is from a Pentad preamp. Don't ask me too much about what it is, so you can go read it. But just to let you know that these guys spend their time to go through these really iconic machines and give you the possibility to put these on a click basic. And it's, I mean, I don't want to say that, I mean, if you have the money, go buy a Neve, go buy a Culture Voter, for sure I will do it. But these guys you have in your hand are fucking, it's incredible. It sounds incredible. You have few parameters, drive. The actually output is balanced, is more you add the drive is automatically lowering the output in order to don't clip. You can also take it off, of course. There is a punish button which will completely overdrive everything. So this guy here, now I think I have to put it here. We put it on each channel basically just to give this analog feeling, this analog shape to otherwise very digital and very straight sounding music. If you want to add something, Nick?
Yeah, vintage emulation actually is something that's very important that I think a lot of digital music is sort of losing. The vintage emulation that we like to instigate basically is for purpose of adding character. Even though we're making music in the digital environment, we want to try and add an element of tangibility to everything. And analog gear, because of its little nuances and because of its bugs and problems, adds sort of a feeling of being alive to the sound. Vintage emulation is something that we use on each of our groups. No group is without some form of vintage emulation. And again, that's just to add a little bit of spice, a little bit of noise, a little bit of distortion to each of these tones to kind of pull away from that surgical clean sound. Even though we are very clean in our equalization, however, we want to add a little bit of distress to everything, and that, I mean, it really translates very well on the big rig and also on headphones and everything. It just adds a nice spice. I definitely recommend maybe checking out, if you have the Waves plugins. There's tons of vintage emulations on the Waves plugins. Check out all the tape emulations. Check out the compressor emulations. check out any tube emulations. If you don't own the Waves thing, you don't have money for sound toys, but you want to get into emulation, Wave Arts, which is not Waves, it's a different company. Wave Arts offers a free tube emulation that is an emulation of a tube saturator or lamp saturator. So yeah, it's just good. Give it a try. Really, it might add some nice, analog warmth. I don't like to use that term warmth too much, but it really does add that little bit of a different character to your tone.
This character, you can call it definitely character. And here we
Mhm.
use it on the kick and bass group going on. So then this will make the kick and bass that goes together to this thing will take the same tone of this decapitator. Then in this case, we just did a basic cut again, 30 Hz, 19, like the audible, just cut up and down to clean up. And here we use another plugin from Elysia to basically glue together kick and bass. So I want to show you how it sounds with and without, if you can hear it, because still maybe you can hear it afterwards on the recording. But so I just put this out. Now you cannot hear it. I mean, it makes a big difference anyway on headphones when you hear it. And on the overall mix, this glued together kick and bass. And after we do have again a basic mid-side cut, side cut to make everything that goes before 300 Hertz, not on the stereo field, let's say on the side field. There is actually not much here again. Sounds good already, but we can definitely work a little bit more on equalization and compression. But once again, if the overall sound of the track is okay, maybe it's also good to leave it, on my opinion, because if you seriously then you want to go to surgical one day, maybe just focus yourself on cutting everything and then you play it again, this kick and bass on all the sounds that were made in another concept, and it will sound not good as before. This happened to me many times, that I said, okay, fuck it, now I want to change, I want to make it perfect. Then the kick and bass itself was sounding perfect, but the track loses its energy.
That is a very important thing to note. Actually, that kind of goes along with the whole keep it simple, stupid in terms of synthesis and processing. It's better if you don't know what you're doing to just don't do it. Read about it first. Read about whatever effect you're going to put on there. Read about it and test in different environments the effect of that effect before you just blindly put stuff on. For example, we're talking about a lot of stuff here in our project. Unless you really try and wrap your head around the basics of each of these tools, it might be better to not just throw stuff on because we told you to. Certainly read about everything, do your own research. These are very tried and true tools that if you like our music, this is, we're an open book here. We're showing you exactly what we use. But again, don't over process. There's no reason to do that. Also, because you will get your track most likely mastered by a professional engineer that may add things like some vintage emulation or some compression or some EQ. Of course, don't rely on your track being mastered to polish your turd,
Yep.
per se. But don't overthink it. I think is important to note. And again, we in terms of the group processing, it's all going to be the same. It's all going to have some form of EQ on the group, some
Yep.
sort of vintage emulation, some sort of saturation probably, and then go ahead.
We can go quickly through. As you said, that there is not much else to say. We basically group all the sounds, as we said before, drums goes, and again another vintage emulation, this time from another Neve amp, which is maybe here is our overdue stuff. We put the radiator and decapitator one after another, but sounds good. So this makes like pretty and a
dirty.
lot of dirty, especially on the drums. And here we go using a Melda production, which is another big nice brand, transient multi-band transient generator, which here we use even a preset to punch high hands. So in fact, we'll emphasize the transient around this area. And once again, a basic EQ. We cut what we don't need, especially in percussion. You don't need much unless you have I don't know which kind of style you want to do. But in this case, you don't need much here on the very bottom low end. And same things goes for synthesizer, which with a little bit trick. There is another, once again, decapitator here. This is again from Sound Toys. It gives you the possibility, as you can see here, to have a sort of rack where you can just drag and drop your all the amazing plugin they have, from filter to delay to EQ to granular delay, whatever you name it. Beautiful stuff. Buy it, guys, and support these guys, because this is are not behind this. There is no multinational or rich bastard that wants just to make profit. These guys are really helping us to make killer music with their passion, and they must be supported, I guess. At the end of this chain, we have a Asterisk Spread, which is this is a very cool one. We can go in detail next time, which allow you also to find a minimum frequency. You can also relate it to, for example, to any pitch you want to start with this, where this frequency will start spreading in stereo. Very useful and very actually is a very precise thing. And again, we go to Adman sample, F track. Again, basic vintage punch, basic EQ with a little of notch there, and basic. Here we are actually full band compressing the Atmo to make it sounding open, I guess. Still, as you can see, for all what we went through here, this is definitely not a complete mix track, but as you could hear before we played the mastered version, but the mastered version is just limited by us, studio is not mastered by professional. The track sounds good to me. And
I think it sounds great. We've played it a bunch too, and it seems to translate really well. So I'm pretty happy with it. Maybe some tiny little changes may occur, but
that for
honestly,
sure. When one day when you have a clean head and a clean ear and you want to go a little bit more, and there is always something that you will recognize, not the final listener probably, because the final listener, as long as he will enjoy the energy of the track or the story. We didn't talk about the story of the track. I mean, music has to have a soul. It cannot be just numbers and beats and screens and whatever, or even a synthesizer. It cannot just be that. It has to be, we must say something, And this is, well, my opinion, what make a track great, an artist great. It can definitely tell something while producing, from the first beat till the last one, a journey. Otherwise, there are many basic copycat music. This thing I skip for it.
Also, there's many people that maybe are very technically talented, but don't have that soul. And I think that is sort of an intangible thing here. That even if you don't have all of the best techniques, or you think that you may need to learn more, it doesn't mean that you can't create truly like moving music. I think that as an artist in music and probably other fields too, the most powerful thing that we can bring to our piece of work is our past experience and our inspiration. So if you have a lot of this experience, life experience, or inspiration through other means of art, then that is really that's the biggest thing you can bring to the table here. Not really all these technical things. It's fun to learn stuff always, and you should keep learning. But don't let that be a hindrance for you. It certainly wasn't for either of us. I mean, you listen to some of our old music and it's like mixed pretty shitty. But we still put it out anyways, and people seem to like it. So definitely try and be subjective about your stuff. I want to just mention quickly about composition here before we get into the Q&A. And the composition of the kind of music that we make, and if you're trying to sort of make something similar, then this might be interesting for you to sort of have some food for thought. We, uh, as dark progressive producers, we kind of are asking the listener through composition to just be a little more patient with their listening experience. As you listen to this track, it doesn't sound so quickly satisfying drops and big risers and all this kind of shit. This music is a little bit more introspective, and I think that's something that can really define dark progressive as a genre, or at least I feel like is an important uh, key word for dark progressive. Having that patience with your composition and with your letting your story sort of slowly evolve, um, it, because what basically happens is that it it allows for the music to become more of a journey and more of like a discovery for the listener, um, almost like more of an odyssey, really, as opposed to, let's quickly get into the meat of the track, let's quickly get out, let's put a break, let's get back into a drop. This sort of ADD composition is quite popular in today's modern music, and I think that's where we want to differ. We want to have more experience with our listener than just giving them that quick satisfaction. Try and think about that sort of thing when you're creating your track, because I think in the end, the listener gets much more out of the experience when you ask them to be patient like that. I think it becomes a little bit more emotional, and I think it becomes thus a little bit more spiritual for the listener in the long run. So I just wanted to point that out here. If you're ever wondering about, should I quickly get into my lead section like immediately? Oh, it's so boring. There's no point in sort of in spoon feeding and slowly emerging into your story. On that note, I think, do you want to add anything quickly on
I
on this?
agree with everything you said. I mean, it's definitely important.